Welcome to Livestream. Welcome back. It's good to be here with you. Oh my gosh, it's good to be here with you since I returned from the DARPA Lift Challenge. That's why I'm wearing my DARPA Lift Challenge hat today. I think that's kind of what we have to open the live stream talking about. Because I'm sure there are questions. I would love to take you guys' questions. I didn't warn you, but hopefully there are some out there. I'll just start by saying that was amazing. That was amazing. There are so many things about that like I don't even know where to start. I just want to, first of all, it was so cool to get to be involved with a broadcast at that level. The team that was brought in to do, so kudos. I'm just going to glaze everybody. So you'll just like, it's like, I feel like I'm at an awards show. But I sincerely mean it. The team that was brought in to do that broadcast was like a legit, like, sports broadcast. These are people with decades of experience broadcasting baseball games, football games, basketball games, probably not soccer games because we don't really do soccer. No, I'm joking. And so if you watched any of that broadcast and you were like, holy crap, this is like freaking, Saturday football. I think football's on Sunday. I don't really watch sports. If you were like, this feels like the real deal, it's because it was. And kudos also to DARPA for correctly making the decision that the broadcast would be successful if they hired a team to do sports broadcast and then just let them do their damn job. It's so common to see, and especially government agencies, like screw up a decision like that, and like there's reasons culturally, there's reasons liability wise, there's reasons why they do that, but DARPA really took a big, like, this was very out of the box, and I think it was a massive success. I hope they feel that way as well, and it was a pleasure and a privilege to be involved. I will tell you. Of course, we're going to start by talking about my experience, right? And you guys can queue up questions if you have questions, specific questions from watching, about I don't know how much you guys watch the DARPA Lift Challenge. I obviously watched the whole thing. It was so different for me. Like, obviously, here I am. I do a lot of live streaming. I'm used to talking for hours at a time, and I'm used to, running the old Stream Deck, switching sources and so forth. But I'm not used to having somebody else do it and having a producer in my ear. So there was a producer in my ear, and she was a freaking rock star. She knew everything about the event. She knew all of the teams because she showed up and she said, how are we going to tell the story of this event? How are we going to look for personal stories? How are we going to identify, here's a father and son team that came from Des Moines, Iowa. Here's who are the players? Who's the audience going to be interested in? Because she knew that if we just live stream the people at the flight line, that's not going to be as engaging. And it speaks to her level of experience and professionalism. And so she was there before I even got there, and I got there, and she had a dossier prepared, and she's like, here are the teams that we think are going to be interesting to get coverage of. Here are the things you need to know about them. And then as the event went on, I'm just up there, and I'm like, oh shit, what's this team's name? Right? And she's like, up next we're going to watch a run from such and such a team. They're currently in third place, and they're trying to fly. Their current weight is X, and that'll put them in second place if they succeed. And also, 3 days ago, they crashed and burned out. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And so then I'm like, oh yeah, well, and I start talking and sounding smart, and it's like 95%, maybe not 95%. It's a lot because, she just has all the notes, and I didn't have to be like, oh shit, what place is this team in? Who's the fifth place? What's their numbers? I didn't have to do any of that because she was just doing it all in the booth. And occasionally I would be like, I started to learn. I'd be like, oh yeah, this team is, their name's not coming to me. Hold on, maybe I'll remember it in a second. And she would be like, it's so-and-so. So I started to learn how to do that. It was fantastic. Blunty, of course, a lot of experience helping me out, but I've never worked in an environment like I have the whole live stream in my grasp at all times, and that thing was too big. There were 15 flight lines. There were 6 teams on the flight line. She's like, okay, we're going to flight line 6. Okay, flight line 5. She has the freaking, the flight line radios in one ear. She has, I can't imagine. Anyway, it was wonderful. And then the event itself, like, it was from the minute I showed up, and I did warn you, I'm just going to glaze everybody, but it's sincere. From the minute I showed up, I showed up a day early before we started the broadcast, and I said, can I just go walk around the pits? I just want to see what people are doing and send a camera with me, and I'm just going to interview people and get to know them, because that's just like what I do. And so they did. And I was like, what the F is this? Holy, like the designs were ridiculous. Some of them less ridiculous. Some of them, oh, look, that's a helicopter. But like just seeing what, and then meeting the people who showed up, we all know the story of Hoarder Sam, who's an FPV YouTuber. And he's just kind of like just a random dude who was like, well, I'm going to give this a try. There were so many people who, like, if somebody showed up and they said, I work at an aerospace company and we make class 2 or group 2 and group 3 drones and we decided to compete, you'd be like, yeah, well, of course you did. If somebody showed up and he said there was one team that they made a hybrid turbine electric power plant, and the idea is they're going to highlight the power to weight ratio of their power plant I'm like, oh yeah, well, okay, that makes sense. We're from MIT. Oh yeah, okay. But there were so many people who just were random people who were like, I feel like giving this a try, and brought interesting ideas. And it was just great to meet everybody and see all these wild ideas and then see the competition play out. So it was, you think about, there were something like 400 teams who applied, and of those, I think in the like low 100s, like around, I had the numbers written down, but I don't have them in my head right now. Around 130 who got selected, and around 70 in the 70s who actually made it out. And, I really again felt like DARPA did a good job. They didn't just select the aerospace contractors, the university students, the people who you like kind of would, they really wanted these when you see these crazy ideas, like the 2 airplanes that spun in a circle, they're there because DARPA knows that sometimes, like, and I'm speaking for myself here, obviously, I did obviously work for DARPA, but I'm not speaking for them in this moment, so just to be clear, they have spokespeople who can speak for them. But my impression is, like, those teams were there not just as charity, not just like for entertainment value, but because the DARPA people recognize that sometimes progress comes from weird, like the whole point is we're going to try to do off the wall stuff and see if there's benefit there. And even if maybe this team doesn't win, maybe we see some value in what they did and then we adapt that, or, so like, I really was just impressed with the whole thing from start to finish. Yeah. So it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And I'll say the final thing, and then I'll stop glazing everybody and I'll take questions. I really feel like the way that the challenge was structured proved itself. The 4-to-1 payload to weight ratio, one of the teams hit, I believe it was 3.84. It was in the 3.8s. Maybe it was 3.86. I think it was 3.84 though. They hit 3.84 to 1, like with 3 or 4 days left in the competition. And you would think, I think it was the second day that we broadcast, somebody hit 3.84 to 1. And you might think, well, gosh, with 3 days left to go, surely. And we saw multiple teams try to crack that 4.0 to 1. And every time it was kind of like, people talk about, oh, it was really hard to break the 4-minute mile. It seemed like there was this barrier at the 4-minute mile. And we saw multiple teams try to crack that 4-to-1 ratio and just through no like fault of their own, like just the aircraft would fall out of the air. We saw a main rotor separate. We saw a tail rotor explode. We saw a multi-rotor just fall out of the sky because the motor's overheated. And it's like, it feels like obviously you would have rather seen somebody actually crack it, you know, like you really are rooting for these people to succeed. But ultimately, you know, that 4-to-1 ratio, some people, including me, was like, I don't think it's possible. And I was happily proven wrong. Granted, no one actually did the 4-to-1, but I wouldn't have guessed that they would get 3.8-to-1. I mean, when you think about that, a 12-pound aircraft lifted 110 pounds of weight. It didn't get very far, but holy crap, you know? And so, like, as you think about, I think if anything, what this did was, as people think about what's possible, you say, well, can you lift X amount of weight with X drone? And you would go, well, no, that's not, you can't do that. Well, maybe you can. So it's pretty cool. I feel like the 4-to-1 was right on the money. It was right there. It was just, that ring was just out of reach and everybody was jumping to get it. And it turned out nobody did, but it wasn't so far out of reach that you're just like, that's impossible. So, all right, let me take some questions. I'm going to take questions. First of all, we had some super chats.
Discord,
yeah.
Scroll up in the Discord.
What am I missing? Okay, great. Yeah, so let me get these. We had a couple super chats come in before I started the queue. Let me get those. Did you see the dude at the DARPA Livestream holding the sign that said, I heart Joshua? He was on the flight line. No, I did not see that. That's fantastic. I wish that we had gotten that into the broadcast. It was pretty fun. Because, now I'll just glaze myself. You know, I got hired to do the broadcast because of, you know, who I am. And also, I will say, I'll say, apparently Steele gave them my name. Thank you, Steele. Apparently he gave them my name and a couple other names and said, it's one of these people. That's who you need to fill this role. And it's thank you. I take that as a compliment, and obviously I appreciate the job. But I don't know if they had an idea what a quote-unquote celebrity I am in, like, these little, like, I'm sure they have a lot of experience working with much bigger celebrities than me, right? But I don't know if they expected that, like, every time we stopped broadcasting, there would be a few people who were waiting to shake my hand or ask me questions or talk to me. You know, as I walked around, people were like, hey, Bardwell. So that was kind of fun. Squadron, thank you for 200 Mexican pesos. JB, you gave a masterclass in the DARPA broadcast. You were the right person for the job. Congrats. And whoever put you on that chair. Yeah. And yes, whoever put me on that chair certainly is good at hiring. I will again say the producer of the broadcast, I mean, so many people involved were rock stars, but she was an absolute rock star. Absolute rock star. Because I saw other people that she hired, and I was like, oh, each of these people are very good at their job. Wow. She is like, one of the skills, she has many skills, but one of the skills she clearly has is that she keeps that freaking Rolodex fresh, and she knows who to go to. And then that she hired me, and seeing how good she was at hiring other people, I was like, wow. It was very gratifying. So, let's see. Other questions. Poulettes asks, love the commentary on the DARPA challenge. Great job. What's the most interesting idea you saw? I like the gas engine making DC power to charge batteries. Yes, so I believe that was the team in third place. Vertisolve, I think is their name. Again, I need a producer in my ear whisper, that's Vertisolve. Because I don't remember these things very well. By the way, thank you to Todd. Todd was the absolute backbone of that broadcast. Todd didn't know shit about drones, but he knows how to do sports broadcasting. And every time I would like, oh, I don't know what to say. And he'd be like, he would just, welcome to the, and I'm like, oh, you've clearly done this before. And then he would just throw to me, and I would just start talking. And then when I ran out of things to say, I would shut up. And I'd be like, and he would just start talking, and everything was fine. And so kudos to him. I forget why I started talking about him. What's the most interesting thing you saw? I like the gas engine. Okay. So third, because he was like writing down all the teams' names. He had all these cards with all the teams' names on them. He would know the team's name. So the third place team had a hybrid electric power plant. It was a combination gas turbine. I don't know if it was literally gasoline. It was liquid fuel. Turbine engine with a DC brushless motor attached to it. And so that brushless motor was driven by the turbine engine and used as a generator to charge batteries. Now, this is not a new idea. Having a gas engine turn a generator to charge batteries is not new, but this hybrid power plant, the turbines are usually much bigger, and so the turbine had been minimized, and turbines are way more energy efficient in terms of power per pound than like a piston engine. Okay. So this team has scaled this turbine down and made a hybrid electric power plant that is smaller and more powerful than previous ones, which is part of the reason they were able to do what they did. They got third place. It was very, very cool. The other cool thing about that is that most of those liquid fuel engines had to be hand started because they didn't want the weight of a starter motor. There was one design that had starter motors that actually fell off after the engines were running. Oh, cool. Because they had these giant rotors that you couldn't possibly hand crank safely. And so the cool thing about that hybrid electric design is that the batteries obviously start fully charged. And so a brushless motor can be pushed by the gas engine to act as a generator, or it can be pushed by the batteries to act as a starter. And so that they could actually either, or they could theoretically stop the turbine and run purely off the batteries. I don't know why they would do that, but they could. So it was a very cool design. Yeah. What was the most interesting idea you saw? I saw so many interesting ideas. I had a real soft spot for the Driftless team. Driftless was the team which was basically one giant rotor, one giant 3-blade rotor, and nothing else. All of the electronics were in the rotor hub, and then there was a shaft with the weight on it. And like just seeing that giant rotor loping through the air it reminded me of those little toys you had as a kid where you spin the shaft and the helicopter blade goes up and it comes down. And I don't know, something sentimental about it. And then watching it come in for a landing and you're like, well, surely it's going to hit the ground and it's going to like explode. But it was so big and rotating so slowly that it just kind of gracefully to a stop and fell over. Yeah, definitely. Why did the Raptors attack Driftless? That was just a demonstration of the counter-UAS capability. So I guess I can talk about it because they showed it. When we first got there, they did not want to make a big deal out of the counter-UAS capability. I don't know if there were, that's obviously a sensitive thing. But toward the end, they decided to do a demo, and Driftless volunteered to get shot down by the counter-UAS team. Other questions about the DARPA Lift Challenge. Let's see. We have any others, Plenty? I'm trying to look. I think you did excellent as a color commentator, especially once you got going about halfway through your first day. Yeah, it took me a minute to find my rhythm. You did seem to have the most fun when you were in the pits. Well, obviously that's where I'm most comfortable. But yeah, I was obviously very comfortable doing that. Whereas, in the booth, I was a little more... not as I was having to try to dial what I said to the audience, which is a little bit less technical than my audience, which is, and then also just like one of the things I had to learn how to do was trade off with Todd, especially during an interview. So we'd have a guest on and I would, so the whole time I'm up there, every second I was up there, I was thinking, if Todd throws to me right now, what am I going to say? I always wanted to have something in the chamber so that I wasn't just like, oh, I don't know. And then during an interview, I'm like, I always wanted to have a question in the chamber. Like, I'm listening to what they're saying, and I'm thinking, if it's my turn to talk next, what will I say that will be interesting to the audience, that will keep the flow going, and that won't make me look like a dumbass. And then, there would be little eye contact between me and Todd as the guest is talking, and sometimes it would be I'd I'm gonna go, or I'd kind of open my mouth. And then sometimes I'd just be like, it's you, I got nothing, so, or sometimes he would point at me and be like, you go next. So that was fun. Where can we watch a replay? DARPA TV on YouTube. I'm sure they have replays of the live streams. DARPA TV, DARPA TV. Let's see here. Is that it? Is that all the... Yeah, I believe that's all.
I put one on the top.
What's that? What do we got? Is there something from the event that you saw that you didn't get to talk about on the broadcast? No, not really. Two reasons. One is that I was sitting in the set. Like we would broadcast for an hour and a half, roughly, and then there would be a half-hour break till the next flight line started. So, it was get there, start broadcasting, half-hour break. So it's go to the bathroom, maybe go get a drink, and then you're back on set because you got to be there a little early, and then lunch. And then back on set. And so, I didn't get a lot of time to go out and see things once the broadcast started. But the other reason is, when I saw something, I would say to the producer, hey, there's this team. I think they'd be good. I'd really like to talk to them. And either she would send Elena out to interview the team, or they would bring the team on set with us. So, no, there was nothing. The only thing that didn't make it on set was, this is great. So, whenever I go to another city, I find a Thai restaurant. I love Thai food. And so I found this Thai restaurant. And I go in and I sit down to eat. And from another table, somebody goes, hey, Bardwell. And I look over and it is the AppRad team, which, by the way, is DARPA spelled backwards. Very clever, guys. The AppRad team is there. And Peter Shripple is on the AppRad team. I apologize to the rest. I actually apologize. I hope the AppRad team sees this clip. Whoever shouted, hey, Bardwell, I look over, it wasn't Peter. I don't immediately recognize this guy. And if I've met this guy, if I should know you, I apologize. But in that moment, I did not immediately recognize you. And then just to his left, I see Peter Shripple. And I'm so excited to see anyone I recognize, because normally people are like, hey, Bardwell. And I'm like, have I met you? Do I know you? Am I forgetting you? I'm about to insult you. And I'm like, hi, Peter. And then I immediately talked to Peter and ignored this guy. So I hope that didn't. I felt afterwards, I was like, that was a little bit rude. I was only out of a sort of panicked sense of social anxiety. And I was genuinely excited to see Peter, who I'm not even sure I've met Peter in person. I might have met him at a flight test event. I'm not sure. But I say to Peter, hey, this is an amazing Thai restaurant. I had actually been the night before and I liked it so much I came back the second day because I had the tom yum soup, but I wanted to try the tom kha soup, and I wanted to try anyway. I was like, this place is amazing. And he said, I know, it's my mom's restaurant. So apparently Peter Shripple, mom has, in my opinion, a fantastic Thai restaurant. It was Tik Thai Express, Tik Thai Express, if you're interested. I wasn't supposed to shout out companies or sponsors that were on the DARPA live stream because they didn't want there to be some kind of an implicate, because they're like a government entity. They can't show favoritism. But on my live stream, I can tell you, if you're in the Beaverton area, Tik's Thai Express. Didn't expect it to be very good. I expected it to be mid just because of the style of restaurant that it was, and it was amazing. So anyway. So I said to the producer, hey, Peter Shriple's here. He's really interesting. He's got 3 million YouTube subscribers. He does all kinds of crazy builds. He might be interesting to get on. And that didn't end up happening. I might have happened if I had pushed it. But I was like, we got a lot going on. So I didn't push it. Gadget FPV, thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you at DLC. I was on the Raging Cajuns team. Earlier in the week, there were so many more teams in the hangars, but as the days went on, teams were dropping like flies. It was unfortunate by the time the commentary started on Thursday, many teams were gone. Yeah, Gadget, I mean, I know that one of the fears was that by the time the broadcast started, everyone would be eliminated. And everyone was really happy that didn't happen. I certainly don't know what was involved in the decision to... I think that DARPA, and again, this is just me speculating. This is not me speaking for anybody, just to be clear. I think that DARPA was a little bit nervous about the broadcast, because this kind of thing isn't usually broadcast in this way exactly. I think they were a little bit nervous, and they weren't sure how they wanted the event to be able to kind of get its legs under itself before the broadcast started. And maybe now, having had this experience, maybe they would broadcast all of the days. I don't know though. It was a pleasure to meet you as well, Gadget. And I will say the Ragin' Cajuns was a source of a funny moment on stream. You didn't hear this. So Todd, of course, Todd is a sports announcer. So he's the Ragin' Cajuns. He whenever somebody would get up, he'd be like, "Oh, where are you from? Oh, such and such university. Ah, the old fighting Gamecocks," or whatever he would name. Because of course, he was a sports announcer. He knows sports. And he said to me, "JB, do you know what a Ragin' Cajun is?" And I'm like, "I don't know." But I'll play along. I'm like, "No, Todd, what's a Ragin' Cajun?" And he said, "Well, a Cajun is somebody from Louisiana. So I would speculate that." And Mandy, the producer, goes, "Let's not speculate." He's like, "Okay, Todd, rein it in there, buddy." Anyway. All right, so DARPA Lift Challenge. It was great. I loved it. I'd love to do more of that kind of thing. It never occurred to me that might be a direction my career could take. But yeah, if you have a drone-related event and you want color commentary, call me up. And that is going to do it. If we get any more questions about the DARPA Lift Challenge, I will obviously consider them. But that's going to wrap up the DARPA Lift Challenge section of the event. Thank you to everybody. It was great. It was great. It was great to get to meet. By the way, it was great to meet people who came over from Flight Fest. I didn't get a chance to go over to Flight Fest. I was just swamped all day, every day. But it was great. The people who came over and shook my hand and said hello. It was great to meet you guys. It was great to be involved in this kind of event. It was great to get to do something that I haven't done before exactly. And then, hopefully not suck at it. Yeah. It was great. And it was great. Honestly, I'll say one more thing. So many times, I have to frame this carefully. And Blunty, get ready with so many times, we look at things that the government does, and we think that's stupid. It's a waste of money. I disagree with it. I think that not only do I disagree with it, but I also think it's being mismanaged, and the people involved are incompetent, stupid jerk faces. And whatever you're sort of leaning, you can think of examples where you've seen that. And I've felt that way in my life. And from top to bottom, every aspect of this that I saw was run so well, with so much passion and care and skill. And it was almost uplifting to me to be like, hey, I something that my tax dollars are being spent on that I kind of feel good about and am proud to be involved in. And that's often true, but it's often also not true. And I really appreciate it. So, all right. Anyway. Okay. We got a super chat here from Jesse Godsey. Thank you for $10, Jesse. Took your advice on the last live interaction we had and ordered the Radiomaster TX15 and the GEP-RC Vapor D5. Thank you. Have also been practicing in liftoff and doing well. I was the RC heli guy asking. Great. I think the TX50. I think if you are trying to buy a Radiomaster radio and you don't know what to get, like the two I would say, just pick one of these and get on with your life, are the GX12 if you want a little bit more compact and dual band capability, or the TX15 if you want a little bit bigger and you don't care about dual band, you're okay with 2.4 gigahertz. Obviously, there are other radios are good and could be right for you, but if you just shut up and tell me, I would say look at those two. So, I'm trying to build my own flight controller. Can you suggest a video for a whole hardware walkthrough of SpeedyBee or Pixhawk? No, I can't. But what I can suggest is, and let me see, Blunty, if I can do this in such a way that I don't screw up. I'm going to leave the browser window up. But what I am going to suggest to you is this. This is a project called Open Drone. Open Drone is a company, organization. I'm not even sure how to sum it up. They are making an open source ESC and an open source flight controller and an open source frame and an open source HLRC receiver. They are making open source and an open source VTX and an open source digital VTX. No, that's too far. But they have the flight controller and the ESC like kind of ready to go. And because it's open and there's a Discord server, you should be able to download the hardware design and the, like, I don't know for sure, but like it seems to me like the whole point of this is like you can download the Eagle files for this PCB. You can download the Betaflight target definitions. You can talk to these people. Hi, for the broadcast, etc. Why did you pick this gyro? Why is this capacitor here? That's where like, and I don't know, like maybe you'll get there and they'll be like, no, it's not active or you don't get an answer you want. But like if you're trying to learn that is absolutely where I would start. So, let's see. Should I make Mjitos or darken Stormies this afternoon? Looking outside my window, it's sunny, so I would say Mjitos. Oh my gosh. We got to double check. We got to check in on the bingo board. If you guys haven't made your own bingo board, there's a link. I didn't pin the link, Blunty. Repaste the link, Blunty. You can make a bingo board and try and get bingo. There is no prize for this. Oh, hang on. Oh, there we go. There's no prize for this. It's just for fun. But let's just double check. Okay, I'll go ahead and pin that in the YouTube chat, Blunty. Pin message. Let's see. Discord mentioned. I don't know if I probably mentioned Discord. Bardwell heavily discusses food. We'll give myself that because I talked about the Thai reference. Bardwell is wrong. I don't think I've been wrong yet. Bardwell travel story for sure. Dang, I would have thought we'd gotten more. Oh well. Tommy Lou wants to know, did you see ideas that are applicable or beneficial to our FPV hobby? I mean, anytime you increase the payload to weight ratio, you like think about, like, I'm going to do a Cinelifter, right? Like, if I'm going to do a Cinelifter, I have to carry batteries and I have to carry a cinema camera. How big of a drone do I need? Or could I use some of that weight to carry batteries, carry more batteries, right? So these advances, because they were targeted at 110 pounds as the minimum weight, there's some limitation to how far down they will scale. Like they will scale up, hopefully pretty well, but they may not scale down to like the 5-inch freestyle range. Like nobody's going to put a gas turbine hybrid power plant on a 5-inch, right? But I could see advantages certainly in the long range and Cinelifter category, for sure. Frankly, you saw so many interesting designs. One of the most interesting designs to come out of it was the tip driven rotor, where you have a giant rotor with like little motors along the edges of the rotor. So instead of a big motor with a central shaft, it's being pulled along. That's just cool. And I'm like, I want to make one of those. How does that even work? I don't even know if it's more efficient. Like, I think that hobbyists are going to look at some of these designs and be like, I bet I could make that work. Think about Happy Hellfire. They were the ones who had the hang glider, and they basically, like, it just couldn't get horizontal. It kept just like falling over. Somebody's looking at it and going, that looks like fun. I'm going to build one of those, Is it fair for me to want DARPA to use their voice to help us push back against drone regulation? You can want that. I don't know to what degree that's going to be possible. I mean, DARPA had to get FAA approval to run this event. This event was held in the national airspace, and these aircraft were over 55 pounds. So they had to get FAA approval, and they had to go through the process of applying for FAA approval just like anybody else would. I mean, obviously, DARPA has, access to communication channels that the average hobbyist doesn't. But at the end of the day, they had to go through the process. And so, I can imagine that they felt the friction of that process similar to the way that we feel the friction, and that there may be some communication about that friction, which when it comes from DARPA, maybe it has a different impact than when it comes from the public. I don't think we're going to see DARPA making public statements saying, about, obviously they would never comment publicly about FAA regulations, right? That would just be completely inappropriate, and perhaps not even I don't know if it'd be illegal, but there are rules about that kind of thing and sort of expectations. So if there is any kind of pushback, it will be back channel communications. But if that were to happen, it might have more impact than comments from the public. So who knows?
Just to be clear, DARPA wants the regulation. All these companies want the regulation. I know that the hobby and drone and wing development came up and was part of why all this stuff happened. But you have to understand now the national airspace needs to be cleared. DARPA wants you to be tracked on your drone. Sorry, that's just the case. These big drones will all be tracked. They'll be in places where they're going to be flying specifically under certain firmware, under certain laws that are going to be in place. There's going to be network providers that tell them where they can and can't fly. They'll be communicating virtually with other drones in the area to do the deliveries. All this is cool, but they are not interested in helping. Unfortunately, I don't speak for DARPA, but no. I can tell you that's where their position is, because that's what all these drones are going to be doing. That's what they're dealing with, is tracked drones. When there's untracked drones in the airspace, it is harder for them to get around and do things with the drones that they're trying to build. But that's just the case.
I think that's accurate. But
that's the viewpoint I would have with the situation. Like you said, no matter what, they're not going to be putting a foot out or a neck out to help anyone.
Yeah, and I don't think that even in terms of back channel communications, I would expect DARPA to be like, well, guys, we need to have less remote ID. We need to raise that 250 gram limit, right? The thing that I would guess, the process of applying for the waiver and then, making the FAA happy, they had to go through that process. And I would say, if there's friction in that process, hypothetically, that might be a case where that might, you might see some, hey guys, there's friction here. That might be listened to more coming from another government agency as opposed to, but again, all that means is that potentially there's a special back channel for government agencies to get waivers. There's a liaison to the government. It doesn't mean that that's going to be anything for hobbyists. DARPA is not in the position of being like an activist. That's just not what they do. So I think the answer to that is not really.
Yeah, I also don't want to be doom and gloom about it, but I hope you guys understand at this point that because of the position that drones have been put in because of conflict, there's never going to be a case where we get rid of drone tracking.
It's that ratchet is only going to go one way from here.
And it is guaranteed to go one way directionally from the legislation that is being put forward that we've talked about multiple times, it is just the case that you need to know where all the things in the air are if you're trying to fly other things in the air around the same elevations or in the same airspace as those things. Yeah. Traditionally, the reason it was accepted is because you're flying at low altitudes in whatever areas and you're not, it hasn't become a thing. But now that it's a thing, I don't ever think you're putting the cat back in the bag or whatever.
The toothpaste back in the tube. Toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah. I don't think you're ever going to get the toothpaste to go back in the tube on this one.
The cat only gets out of the bag. If you're putting the cat in the bag, you're a horrible person. The cat gets out of the bag. The horses get out of the barn. The ship has sailed, and the toothpaste has gotten out of the tube. And I often mix up those aphorisms and use them.
So I just want to be realistic. I just don't think you're going to get that kind of help on pushback against, the drone regulation. One place you might get it, and just to be like a little bit out there about this, is just to think about what's happening, right? Is they're creating lanes and airspace for all these drones to fly in. They're going to broadcast, and you're going to do like detect and avoid with your drone on the ground at some point with some module that will eventually likely be on your drone in 5 to 10 years. We've discussed all this in past live streams if you haven't heard it. But that's kind of where we're going. But just to summarize, like, they are also in the interest of you kind of being where you want to be. In other words, like, I don't necessarily think that we're going to lose the idea of FRIAs. Some people do. But, like, FRIAs can be a marked out space where you're allowed to fly. In that way, I think also we could see semi-support in the way of, like, not objecting to things like shielded operations, which means like if you're near a building or near under trees, under the tree line, right, you can't be violating airspace because that's not somewhere you should be able to fly, right? And the biggest objectors we've seen to that are helicopter pilots who hate that idea, because they think they want to be able to land helicopters in situations where they think that you would be flying drones under shielded operations, and that would conflict with where the helicopters want to be. But I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom. There are ways we could open up and fly in most places we want to fly anyway without any change in how we fly. But I'm just letting you know, you're going to be tracked. There's going to be more regulation. It all sucks. But it's also cool to be seeing new technologies happening.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. And as a well, to call you just a member of the FPV Freedom Coalition would probably be understating it, but you are directly involved with some of that political lobbying isn't the right word. Maybe it is. But
it's not. It's technically not lobbying.
Right. Lobbying is a thing. What would you call what you do through the FPV Freedom Coalition?
Activism, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
I would just say like participation in conversation to make sure that we're not being left out of the loop, basically. That's the main, like, that's how we know about the helicopter response to shielded operations, because in a meeting, shielded operations was brought up, and a lot of the helicopter pilots were vocally adamant that that was a terrible idea and they would never allow shielded operations, So like, that's all I can tell you is that, and that we are working to come to an understanding, and that hopefully some of those things can happen before all the rules get like bricked in place. So
yeah, good. I'm glad that somebody's out there doing it. Let's just be clear for those who are not, because this is the European stream. Technically, my Sunday stream is earlier in the day, so the Europeans can tune in, and my Monday stream is later in the night, so we stinky Americans can get together and talk about them when they're all in bed. So the cat is out of the bag means that like a secret has been revealed. Blunty, do you agree? Like, cat's out of the bag means information has come to light that was private, that means everybody knows now.
Oh.
Yeah,
so you can't put the cat back in the bag.
Right. Cat. Why was the cat in the bag in the first place? I think there's only unsavory reasons that you would put a cat in a bag. But anyway, the ship has sailed. When you say that ship has sailed, it means that something has already happened, and because it has happened, the future is like predestined. Like we're talking about, well, should we do this or should we do that? It's like, look, that ship has sailed. That's already been decided in the past, and we can't take it back, and so we're stuck with the consequences of that decision. Once the ship leaves, you can't change what's on the ship, I guess. So the ship has sailed. The toothpaste is out of the tube. Refers to like once you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube, you can't put it back. And so the key thing there is that you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. You've done something and it can't be unwound, which is kind of like that ship has sailed. But the idea with that ship has sailed is we're talking about the future and the present, and what we're considering is not possible because of a past decision. Whereas with the toothpaste is out of the tube, you're specifically trying to rewind something and undo something, but you can't. And then finally, the horse is out of the barn. When would you say the horse is out of the barn? How is that similar or different to the others? I'm not actually sure about that one. I don't use that one a lot. I don't know. Chat? How does the horse, and these are English aphorisms, but how does the horse in the barn, I'm not sure about that one. Does that overlap with one of the others?
Oh, you typically expect horse is going to go back in the barn at some point. Like it's not a permanent
Yeah,
situation.
that's a good point. It's too late now to change what has happened. When the horse has left the barn, it's started its journey and you're too late to get on it. Oh, it's like the train has left the station or that ship has sailed. Okay, so that seems to be that's interesting. I thought the horse getting out of the barn referred to the horse escaping, and there was something unintentional had happened. Like the horse has escaped the barn. This person is saying it's similar to that ship has sailed or that train has left the station. It refers to, that's interesting. Well, it explains why I don't use it very much. Let's just double check that. They're basically saying the time has passed for something to happen. It's now too late to perform the action in question. A chance has been missed. Okay, so the horse is out of the barn, the same as that ship has sailed or that train has left the station. Okay, great. Bardwell clears up English aphorisms for non-English speakers. Oh, I should have cleared that question. I didn't click on anything. You're going to have to edit that plenty. We got a question here. What's your advice on a starter, tiny whoop, and gear? I would say a good starter, the BetaFPV, Air 65, or Meteor 75 are good choices. Air 65, Meteor 75, both solid choices. 75 obviously a little bit bigger. Air 65 a little bit smaller. It's a little bit of a tough, toss-up. Oh, here's the digital version. That is not what I meant to select. I meant to select the analog version. Meteor 75 Pro 2 brushless whoop quadcopter. That's a solid choice. And then for goggles, I gotta say, the VR04 are like probably the best value analog goggles you can get today. I know that there's the venerable Eachine EV800D, but I think the VR04 is better. It's a box goggle, but if you're trying to get started on the cheap, you're going to buy a box goggle, and it has all the drawbacks of a box goggle. Like, it doesn't fit your face really well, and it doesn't have spectacular range. But like, of the box goggles you can get, it's pretty good, and it's $75. The next step up would be something like the SkyZone Cobra, which is a much better receiver and a better goggle, but still a box goggle. So, and it's like $250. So, and then as far as the controller goes, do not buy the BetaFPV. You're like, well, he's recommending BetaFPV. Do not buy the BetaFPV light radio. Go away. Do not buy. You want something like the Radio Master Pocket. Would be a good choice. Radio Master Pocket. That's where I would start you. And you're going to get in for $250, $300, let's say. You're going to get in for under $300. You need batteries. You need a charger. The Whoop Store for 1S is a good 1S charger. Whoop Store, and then there's another Whoop Store that is for 2S batteries. Here we go. If you get a 2S drone, the Whoop Store, the Tooth Store they call it. That's for 2S batteries. Those are great little chargers. Get some good batteries. BetaFPV Lava batteries are good. And you're off to the races with a horse that got out of the barn. Speaking of the Eachine EV800D, here's a question from Skippy FPV. Skippy has apparently been trying to ask this question for 3 live streams. Nothing personal, Skippy. We just get a lot of questions, and we just don't get to them all. So, but your time is up. No, wait, your time is not up. Your time is now. This is your time to shine. Your moment in the sun. Jason Briggs, those chargers do have storage mode. Skippy FPVS, what antenna for the Eachine EV800D? So, Skippy, your head's in the right place. If you have a goggle like the Eachine EV800D, which does not have a spectacular receiver in terms of its sensitivity and so forth, the best thing you can do to upgrade it is to put a good antenna on it. Shop by antennas. Where will those be? Accessories? No. I hate... You know what? Raceday Quads and GetFPV are the same warehouse. GetFPV bought Raceday Quads years ago. But I think Raceday Quads website is easier to navigate.
Just for clarity, the same VC firm bought Raceday Quads that owns GetFPV.
Well, okay. Fair enough. Like GetFPV didn't literally buy Raceday Quads?
Yeah, I think it's Fixed 10 Partners.
I'm not sure if that's a distinction without a difference, though. I mean, legally, sure, but, like, GetFPV took, like, the venture capitalists didn't take over operations. GetFPV took over Raceday Quads operations, their warehousing, their fulfillment, their customer service. GetFPV basically took it over. And, in fact, Raceday Quads, they were going to run two separate warehouses, and then I don't remember why, but for a reason... Shortly after the acquisition, they closed down the Raceday Quads warehouse and they combined the warehouses. You were gonna object. You said, "Well, I don't know if you still."
I wasn't aware of that. I thought they were run as two separate businesses.
They were going to do that. I believe at the time of the acquisition, the expressed intent was to keep the Raceday Quads warehouse running separate from the GetFPV warehouse. Something happened. I don't remember what. There was a little bit of drama, I remember, and so I probably would keep my mouth shut anyway because I don't know the facts. But shortly after the acquisition, they ended up having to close down the Raceday Quads warehouse. I don't know if like the lease was up or something. They closed the warehouse and they moved all the shit from the Raceday Quads warehouse over to GetFPV, and they I don't know what they did with the employees. But I'm sure those facts I'm sure of. And then just recently, like in the last 2 months, they moved from GetFPV's building that they've been in for 10 years now, and they moved to a new, bigger warehouse. And so now definitely they're combined. But yeah, no, this is just a front end for the exact same warehouse and the exact same fulfillment operation. Anyway, let's see. Antennas for the EV800D. We'll do connector. I don't remember if they're RPSMA or SMA, but it probably doesn't matter. We'll choose SMA as a connector. So I feel like this is a solid choice. The Lumineer Axi. It's a little bit expensive. There's the Xylo antenna as well. Can we find the Xylo is a little bit cheaper. And basically just as good. The Xylo antenna is just a slightly older design. And is a little bit cheaper. I don't think I need two pieces, but right hand is out of stock. Anyway, so the Xylo antenna is a good Omni choice. The Lumineer Axi patch is a solid directional choice. And then if you want to, go a little bit higher in price and capabilities, something like the TrueRC, let's see. I don't want the set for the DJI goggles. I don't need two of them. I just need one. Well, I'm trying to find the TrueRC antenna. Okay, I'm not finding the TrueRC antenna I like. That's a shame. I guess the Lumineer Axi patch is a solid choice. There's one, maybe the Vaz crosshair. Yeah, okay. This is a solid directional antenna. The Vaz crosshair. It's a little bit expensive, but you know, you want quality, you're going to pay for it. And that's a decent like directional antenna. So make sure to buy the right connector, RPSMA or SMA. I don't know which those goggles have off the top of my head. And then make sure to buy the right-hand polarized or left-hand polarized, depending on what's on your drone. Most analog pilots choose right-hand polarized, though. All right, Skippy. Gotcha. What happened to your product line? Asks Daniel 95AR. Thank you for 10,000 COP. Race Day Quads originally was the manufacturer of those, and as far as I know, they're just not. They just stopped making them, and I kind of stopped caring about it. I've just moved on. The motors I explicitly stopped production of because. So let's talk about my motors. Andy Graber. I was at Luminaire headquarters a while back, and Andy came up. He gave me this. I don't think it was this exact one. This was off a drone I found in my closet, but he gave me some of these motors that he had sitting around, some of the original prototypes. And so I have a few. This is actually off a drone that I had, and I pulled the arms off it and saved it because, you know, that's a piece of history right there. Here's the story of why I made these motors. I never make a product just because I want to make a product or because I want to make money. I'm a terrible YouTube influencer. I should just make a whole bunch of shitty products, slap my name on them, and then collect. And then the problem is, if a product has my name on it, I care about it, and if it sucks and people complain, then I take it personally. And part of the problem is that if I am not directly involved in the manufacturing, which I never am, because I don't want to be directly involved in the manufacturing. That's not what I enjoy. It's not what I'm good at. Then I have to go back to the company doing the manufacturing and say, hey, I'm hearing there's some problems. And then they say, oh, we had a bad batch, or we'll look into it, but ultimately and then what? So like, if I'm going to put my name on something, there has to be like a compelling reason for me to take the risk that the product has a problem, and then I can't necessarily fix that problem, and then people are like, I bought the Bardwell product and it sucks. And so with these motors, oh my God, you guys are not going to believe this. It's so good to have an archive of everything you've ever done in your whole career on the internet. Shut up. No, come on. I know you're there. Yep. Okay. So, oh, look at young Bardwell. Look at young Bardwell.
2407 motors on them, and when I put the HQ 5x4.8 V1S props on it, I really felt like these motors woke up. And I said, I'll bet they would even be happy with like a 50-50 prop on it. So let's find out. These are the HQ 50-50 V1S. Let's see how this bad boy performs.
Oh, good old freestyle from 8 years ago. Ooh, listen to that. PID controller, a lot different than it is today. Hear that battery beeping. Oh, it's fun to see how my property's changed over the years. So anyway, this motor that I'm flying in that video is the EFAW 2407. Can we possibly... Oh my God, look, it's still... You can't get it. It doesn't exist. And this motor was one of the first motors to deviate from the 2207 size. That was very popular, very 2306, 2207. Today, it's not that controversial to run like a 2407 or a 2506 on 5-inch, especially if you're going to be hauling a lot of weight. But back then, this was like, whoa. And then the other thing they did was they used slightly underpowered magnets. So everybody wants the, you know, NH54, whatever, the super high-powered magnets. And the EFAW motor had a slightly bigger gap between the stator and the magnet and slightly weaker magnets. And because it was a bigger motor, it had more torque. And because it had weaker magnets, it was actually smoother. And so a big problem that we had back in the day was prop wash oscillation. Now today, the PID controller has all this RPM filtering and all this filtering, and PID controllers are actually very good at dealing with prop wash oscillation. But back then, we didn't have any of that shit. And so this motor was very good at fixing prop wash oscillation. I know I called out a little bit of prop wash in that video, but that was like a shockingly smooth flying motor for the time. And I made these videos, and I was like, I want this motor. This is a fantastic. I want this. This is the motor for me. Let's see what I said.
More. Yeah, it's faster and punchier. Wow, those throws over the house, it just goes. So then
Where'd you go, Bardwell?
The amps were more.
Nice free stream.
We were peaking at around 120, 125 amps on the 5x4.8.
Anyway,
it just goes. The other thing is, are we overpropping the motors? How could you really even tell? As you overprop the motor,
I think I had lost my voice.
It'll get less response.
Anyway, so I went to EFAW and I said, I love your motors. Your motors are great. Can I make a JB branded version of your motor? I love this motor so much. I want it to be like my motor. And they dropped off the face of the earth. Like right about the time that I did this, they just kind of dropped off the face of the earth and stopped existing. And so I want to be really clear that the first thing I did was I tried to go to the source. And when I couldn't get that, the next thing I did is I went to BetaFPV and I said, can we make a 2407 motor just like this EFAW motor? And so like, I want to be really clear, I would never have done that if EFAW was still in business. I would never just be like, can I clone this product and put my name on it and eat their lunch? The first thing I did was I tried to contact them and I couldn't get a hold of them. And everybody I talked to said, yeah, they dropped off the face of the earth. They don't exist anymore. And so I made that 2407 motor to try to fill a gap of something I wanted that didn't exist. Now, unfortunately, you know, BetaFPV, like they didn't have that. They had the higher powered magnets. So like I didn't end up getting that exact motor, sadly. But I did get a motor that I really liked. And then after a while, that run of 2407s stopped being made. And they said, it's time to we need to refresh this. Let's see what we can do. And I was like, well, and also they didn't want to make the 2407s anymore for whatever reason. I don't remember what the reason was. I was like, they were like, can we do a 2208? I said, well, okay. I mean, 2208 is another big stator motor. We'll give that a go. And we did a second run of 2208s. And one of the biggest problems we had was that this purple required a special anodizing process. And they struggled to find a company that could make this purple. And I said, guys, it doesn't have to be. And they were like, no, we're doing that exact shade of purple, Bardwell. I was like, okay. But at that point, there were a lot of 2407, 2506, 2507, 2208. There were a lot of motors that fit in this space. And my motor was like $28. because I don't remember what the number was, but I got a couple bucks off of each motor. And then BetaFPV got a couple bucks off each motor. And meanwhile, you've got companies out there and they're making a $20 2208 motor. And I looked at the $28 JB motor and the $20 or $22 motors out there, and I was like, I wouldn't buy this. Like, for you guys who loved the motor, and there were people out there who loved it, okay. But like, I just didn't feel good having my name on a product that was $28, and I legitimately didn't feel like it was $8 or $6 better than a $20 motor. And I was like, if I wouldn't buy it, and there's a ton of other motors out there filling this gap, it's not unique in the marketplace. It's just the only reason people are buying it is because it's got my name on it, and they're overpaying for it. And I was like, well, time to pack it up, and I stopped making it. Now, as for the flight controller, that I think went away. Like, I don't know. They still make it? I don't know if they still sell it. Do they still sell it? I honestly, yeah, out of stock. I don't know when it's been in stock, but I'm not sure it's still made. I don't know. I'm not really keeping up with it. Certainly, you know, Tyler Brennan was a big driver for that, the owner of Race Day Quads. And, you know, when the Race Day Quads got acquired and Tyler Brennan left, there may have been a reevaluation of whether it was necessary to still produce it. But, you know, there's a lot of good flight controllers out there. I still like this one, but I'm not, like, pushing it. Because, you know, I'm terrible at making money. I don't really push products unless I'm passionate about them and unless I feel like there's a real reason for them. Anywho. Jacob V, thank you for $10. Opinion on Rate FPV Snap Module. What is that? I don't know what that is. It's a frame. Have we covered this frame before? The Snap. I don't think we have. Is it a modular? You can change the camera. Yeah, you can pop the camera out.
We just happen to be seeing a lot of these recently on the streams, or is this like a new thing that people are getting more modular?
I think it's because video transmitters have gotten more expensive. Is my theory.
Oh.
So people are more interested in being able to swap VTXs between frames. I guess the big question is like, how does the VTX attach? It would be great if somebody would do this with like pogo pins so that you don't have to plug anything in. You'd have to make it reliable. That's interesting. Oh my gosh, excuse me. I got the hiccups. That's interesting. Is that plastic? If the front is plastic, I don't love its durability, its chances of surviving in a crash. It's not my favorite. Like, we've seen versions of this that have like a metal front end. The whole front end of this thing looks plastic. I don't love it. Like, the It's FPV era does it. And they have like heavy industrial nylon. I don't know what this is. It doesn't look super durable. It's clever that you've got this snap. So like you don't have to use any screws to take it off and move it around. That's clever. But I feel like the trade-off you're making in terms of durability, and again, this is just speculation based on the photo. I could be wrong. My gut feeling is the trade-off you're making in terms of durability is not worth it. Also, like, how often do you crash? And like, that's all that's holding it in is that mechanism. So how, like, if I cartwheel that thing across the ground at 60 miles an hour, is it going to rip off? I feel like some of the time it rips off. Like, that's just my immediate gut reaction. Yeah. Like, you just have these two spring-loaded presses. So, yeah. What I would want to feel good about this, I would want to see some crash testing. I'll tell you what. Rate FPV. Prove me wrong. Rate FPV send me a drone. Probably should be the 5-inch. Send me a 5-inch. You don't have to take me up on this deal. You don't have to, you could just pretend you never heard of this. I'll never mention it again. But you send me a 5-inch, and I'll review it. I'll fly it, and then at the end of the video, I'll beat the shit out of it. I will not I will try to do realistic things to test its durability. I will smash it headlong into things. Right? And I will cartwheel it across the ground. Probably I'll cartwheel it across the ground just by throwing it, because you can have more control than if I try to do it. I will just take it. I'll take it to the grass first, and I will just like ninja star it across the ground. And we'll see if it holds up. If it holds up, if the front end doesn't like collapse in a crash, break the camera lens, etc., or if I cartwheel it across the ground and it doesn't rip out, I will say, hey, okay. Like, at least in my testing, it held up. It's a clever idea, but I think it won't hold up, but I'm open to being wrong. And if you, what does this cost? Oh, that's not a full drone. No, you got to send me a whole drone. Don't just send me a frame. You got to send me a whole drone. Like, that's the deal. No VTX camera included. No, you got to send me an air unit. I'm not going to break my own air unit to test whether your frame is durable. That's the price of admission. Here's the thing. If I test it and it holds up, you'll probably make your money back. And if I test it and it breaks, so it's like, it's your call. It's your company, it's your business, it's your product. If you believe in it, then send it to me and I'll review it. It's interesting. Here's the thing. It's interesting enough. Like, lots of times people say, what do you think of this frame? And I talk about it and then I never think about it again. What you've done is interesting enough that I'm willing to give it a shot. Maybe you care, maybe you don't. Somebody forward this clip to Raid FPV. Lol, JB arguing with Rate already. Oh, yeah, I should chuck it into a tree and let it fall from the tree. Yeah. Continuing the super chats. Sunshine, thank you for $5. I found a gimbal camera that's perfect fit for my hexacopter, but HDMI out is the only choice. I can't seem to find a VTX with HDMI in. Yep, there is one, and literally one, that I know of. You're not going to like it, though. There you go. Divimath HDMI video transmitter. This is such a cool product. It is an amazingly cool product. You do have to use the Divimath /HDZero wireless link, which it's very low latency. It's good for that. But in terms of range, penetration, and power, it's not the best. But it does exactly what you're asking for, and it is the only product. By the way, Walksnail, long time ago, said they were going to have a VTX with HDMI in. Crickets. Crickets.
They do, don't
What?
they?
Shut up, Blunty. No, for real?
Wait, or is that the Vista one? Didn't somebody make... That exists.
There's a third-party board. There's a third-party board for the Vista that will do HDMI input. Yes. Walksnail, no, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Chat.
Okay, well, that's an option too.
Chat. Where's Blunty was wrong? Oh, please tell me I have it. Oh, no! I don't have it on my board! Oh, I was about to give myself Bardwell this wrong.
I mean, it was half, because, I mean, I was in the right ballpark. There is a thing, it's for the Vista.
You said they do. You were pretty confident. Then you backpedaled.
Technically, it's Cadex.
Oh, shit, you're right. I said Walksnail. It's Cadex. Technically, the Vista is Cadex. I don't know. The chat can decide for them. I think this is a personal call.
Either way, there's a board for the Vista that you can plug in as a third-party option, and it will give you HDMI support.
I'm looking for it. I forget the name. This is not it. Is this it? This is, oh my god, it's on frickin' AliExpress. This is not the same product. The product I'm thinking of came from a little company, but this will do it. You get yourself a Vista. Here's an HDMI input board for the Vista. Slick. The latency is not going to be as good as the DiviMath solution, but the link is going to be way better.
I think Neutron RC was the one you were thinking of. And I put that link in the chat.
Cinetronics. Here's a Madstech video. Neutron RC. Did Neutron RC make it? I'm not seeing that. But Cinetronics. Yep, this is the one I'm thinking of. So this is the one you should buy. They developed this. I don't know what the AliExpress thing is. It's also, well, it's the same price. Video input dev board. Oh, it's sold out. Never mind. Buy the AliExpress one. That does the same thing. It's a HDMI input to a Caddx Vista. There you go. Unreality says Neutron RC. They say, Curtis Beef says Neutron RC does make one.
Yeah, I put a link in the Discord.
Well, I guess you were right. You know, it's so unfair. I also don't have Bardwell Wheels chair to... I did talk about how FPV was in the old days, though. Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, left 4 down.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Was the discussion about the waivers for the DARPA Lift Challenge count as drone rules discussion? I think it does.
I think probably my little rant about tracking drones counts as a drone rules discussion.
How about Blunty gets passionate? You think you got passionate there?
I got passionate adjacent.
Yeah, all right, we'll take it. No one has said anything about you being angry or like, oh, I didn't know Blunty could be like that. So you didn't get full passionate. Latency discussion. We did talk about latency with the HDZero or DiviMath. Sorry, not HDZero. DiviMath, not HDZero. Very important. Have I shown a meme on screen? Well, I'm so close, but I don't know if I'm going to get there. Okay. Unreality is saying that the Neutron RC HDMI board also works with HDZero. You know, it's interesting. The chat is my producer. Like, it's like, instead of just one person who's feeding things into my ear, it's, 100 people. But the chat is like playing the role of the producer who makes me sound smart. All right, continuing on. The origin, Mr. Bebo says, the origin of the cat being out of the bag refers to the cat of nine tails used for flogging sailors. Oh, well, that's better. I assumed it was a reference to the horrific ancient practice of when your cat has kittens and you don't want the kittens anymore, you put the kittens in a bag and you throw the bag in the river. And then sometimes the cats escape the bag. And then your dastardly plan has been foiled. I see. You've got a cat of nine tails that's going to be used to punish the sailors, and you take it out of the bag when it's time. Okay. Great. Thank you, JPMKIV. People just joining the stream have no idea that we spent a lot of time talking about English aphorisms, including the Toothpaste is out of the tube. That ship has sailed and the cat's out of the bag. Oh, and Bardwell was wrong. I was wrong. I was also wrong about the horses being out of the barn. Bardwell was wrong. Boom. I've never been so happy to be wrong. I get to check off a bingo board. Nothing could even emergency land in Hilly Woods. Thank you for $3. I have no context for that comment, JP. Nothing could even emergency land in Hilly Woods. Nope, it sure couldn't. Thank you for $5. What are your thoughts? Lucas Middleton asks, what are your thoughts on the new Betaflight auto PID tune? Is it any good at actually tuning? Does Betaflight have an auto PID tune? I know it's got a PID tuning tab that helps you PID tune. I wasn't aware that it had an auto PID tune.
When you go into the
when
you go in the configurator, there's a button that says auto tune now, and Mark Spatz did a video on it and said basically like it's right a little bit.
Oh, that's better than some things. Where is it?
Yeah.
I'm in the virtual configurator. I'm not connected to a flight controller.
Disconnect. You got to disconnect.
Okay. Now what? Auto tune.
Left.
Oh, yeah. No, I've seen this. I mean, but it doesn't. Does it spit out PIDs, or does it just tell you about your current PIDs?
Yeah, it spits out PIDs, and Mark's trying to get him to spit out slider positions or something like that, I think he said. He did a video on it. If you want to go learn about it, you go to UAV Tech and look at Mark's Spatz.
Yeah,
Mark Spatz
I did watch his video. I just didn't register that it was like, oh, shoot. Dick.
My memory of it was, his issue was that they weren't giving slider positions, but that was getting an update in a future version.
Yeah, I've watched this. So like you do the chirp and then you import it and then it shows you all this stuff. I remember him being like, yeah, then you got to look at this, and if it doesn't look like this, it's no good. You know, auto-tune graphs, auto-tune analysis. Oh, you're right though. It's spitting out PIDs, proposed slider positions. There you go. Well, if you want to know more about it, I guess watch this video. Well, I haven't tried it yet. Ultimately, you fly your drone, you see if it feels better, and see if it has better results. Thank you, Unreality FPV, for $5 Canadian. HLRC VR001 goggles are out, like VO4, but available. No reviews yet. People need to know. $90 US, instant on, good reception, almost no rolling. Okay. I mean, I reviewed the VR04 goggles. For $90, I will just buy them. And I will test them if you say they're good. But if they suck, you owe me $90. That's how it works. Hey, Bardwell showed address on stream! I don't really care. I did, in fact, show my home address on stream, though. Nice. I don't really care. People, my address is out there. It's not a big deal. That's great. Hey, I've almost got bingo. I'm buying these right now. I'm not joking. I'm buying them right now. Do not email me with news and details. PayPal, blah, blah, blah. Pay now. Phone number. Bardwell definitely not going to show his phone number on stream. My address, people know. I've had races at my house. Like, my address is just out there, so it's not a big deal. Like, I don't put it up at the bottom of every stream, but I don't mind if I leak it every now and then. I'm not worried about it. My phone number I would care a little bit more about. Just because some of you jackasses would try to call me. And you'd find out I'm not as nice as I seem. Man, he seems so nice on stream. Yeah, I'm nice on stream because I'm talking to you. And I can be selective about, you know. If I don't like what you're saying, I just turn off the chat and stop listening to you. It's easy to be nice. Not everybody. You say that, but like some people fail even that bar. But if I'm like, you know, in the middle of watching a movie with my wife and you call me on my phone, you will not get nice, polite, friendly Bardwell. If you come up to me in public, if we're at an event, come on, shake my hand, say hello, talk to me about your drone, whatever you want to do. Absolutely. 100%. Like some people are like, oh, I didn't want to bother. No, bother me. It's fine. It's a privilege to be in a position where complete strangers like have a parasocial relationship with me and are happy to meet me. It's the basis of my whole career. And so absolutely. And I will be happy to see you and we will talk about your drone or whatever you want to talk about. Don't come to my house and don't call my phone. Email me. Yes. Chat me on Discord. Yes. Not a problem. My door is open. The key thing, there's a key here, the key differences. The key differences are that I get to decide. Well, I guess if you come up to me in public. But if I'm like at an event, I've decided, like my door is open at that point. You know? But like if you call me, it's like, no, that's just for people I give my number to. That's the king. If I gave you my number, you can call me. If I didn't give you my number and you got it through some other means, don't call me. All right, good. I'm glad we're clear. Let me put this on my list of. I've got a list of HLRC VR100 goggles. Okay, I've got it. It's added to the list now. Okay. I will say, 2 times in my life, somebody came up to me. 3 times in my life. Somebody in public came up to me and was like, oh, hey, are you Joshua Bardwell? I wasn't at an FP event. 2 times I was at the airport. And 1 time I was visiting Fabio. I actually went to visit him in Switzerland a few years back. And he took me to Italy and we went to the Duomo, which is this massive Gothic cathedral. And I'm walking around inside the Duomo and a guy comes up and he's like, he has my Instagram up. He's like, is that you? Okay. Yeah. That's fine too. That's kind of nice. It doesn't happen often enough that it's annoying. Thank you for 100. CZK, Silesian Whoop, asks, hi JB, HDZero Goggles 2 built-in analog with stock Omni, weak signal far out and behind head. Yeah, I mean, you have a single Omni antenna. That doesn't surprise me. Will pricey antennas fix this or is an SMA extension enough? I would strongly recommend using a directional antenna. And then just turn your head. Okay, I get great results using whatever the TrueRC. Where's my goggles? They're back on the table. I want to go get them. I get great results using the TrueRC antenna or the HDZero branded antenna, whatever they call that thing, which is basically the same thing. So the problem is that because you don't have diversity, you have to turn your head. Now, if that's a deal breaker for you, you should get a diversity module. An Omni antenna that goes up above your head is going to be a little bit better, but it's not going to be that great. You really want like a 5 or a 7 dB antenna to give you that additional punch. That's not a problem with the HDZero goggles. It's true of any receiver. The HDZero goggles are as sensitive or more sensitive than TBS Fusion and Rapid Fire. So in terms of pure hardware capability, they're as good or better. But if you put a little 2 dB Omni antenna on there and you stick it right next to your head, that's going to be a problem. That would be a problem for any module. So that's how I would address that problem. Can you recommend resources for pilots looking to get into racing? Honestly, your best resource is going to be your local multi-GP chapter. That's where you should start. Now, if you don't have a multi-GP chapter, well, then how are you going to get into racing? The next best way... DC says a cat of nine tails would not be kept in a bag. I'm still stuck on this. Bardwell was not wrong. Bingo is a farce. That's great. If you don't have a local multi-GP chapter, then you probably, like, if there's something within travel range, then you're going to race in person, and you should get to know your local racing chapter and communicate with them about how they practice and what kind of resources they use. The alternative is to get into Velocidrone. Velocidrone, let's bring that up on stream. Velocidrone, and not to take anything away from any other simulator, Velocidrone, I think, has the most active online community around FPV drone racing. You can get there, practically any night of the week you can get online and you can race or you can practice. And Velocidrone is also an excellent, the physics of Velocidrone are excellent. And again, many other sims also have excellent physics. Velocidrone's weakness is the environments. It doesn't have as detailed environments, but in terms of multi-GP style racing, Velocidrone is hands down the best, and I think has the biggest and most active community. So that would be the next thing I'd suggest. In terms of tutorials, like, I don't have like a YouTube tutorial. I remember Myon High used to have one. So like UAV Futures has some old lessons from 8 years ago. They're out there. Here's Myon High, her tutorials. I don't know who's made one recently. Here's Vanover posting some stuff. Like, Evan Turner is a great resource. He's a great racer. Like, these are things you could do. But like, you probably already guessed that. So, yeah, Myon High had a structured class, actually. Those are good resources. Oh my God, that's all the super chats. Fantastic. Here's a question from Gadget FPV. JB, you made some predictions about what designs you thought would come out on top at the Drone Lift Challenge. Some of the things you mentioned, you thought it would have to be liquid fuel, and you thought it would have to be either a single large rotor collective pitch situation. I was curious if the second place MTech team with the hexacopter surprised you, or if it surprised you that the winner was fully electric. Yes to both. Yes to both. It didn't surprise me that the winning designs, 2 of the 3 winning designs were like helicopter style designs, a single large rotor with collective pitch. As much as we saw all these other designs trying interesting things, like those designs certainly came out on top. And what I said at the event was, there's 2 ways to approach this problem, and both ways have value. One way to approach the problem is to say, clearly a helicopter-style big rotor is the current leader in terms of payload to weight ratio. So what we're going to try to do is take that and try to like dial it up to 11. What could we do to increase the payload to weight ratio of that fundamental design? And then the other way to approach the problem is to say, we're just going to try something radically different. For example, there were several teams that took old designs from like the 60s and resurrected them And you might say, well, that idea already failed. It failed in the 60s. But we have access to material science. We have access to power systems. We have access to technology that they didn't have in the 60s. Maybe if we revisit some design from the 60s, we'll go, oh, this turns out this is viable, or there's something we can learn here. So I saw two different approaches. And I was a little bit disappointed that the sort of radical designs didn't actually they didn't do that well. In terms, they weren't in the top 3 on the leaderboard. I don't think they were in the top 5. In fact, there were relatively few teams. I think there were only 5 or 6 teams who actually completed the course with any payload to weight ratio. Maybe that number's a little higher. I certainly don't think it's more than 10. There were, throughout most of the event, there were 5 people on the leaderboard, and then 8 or 10 teams that we called chasers, which were teams that had successfully gotten in the air, but not actually completed the full 5 nautical mile course. So the radical designs, obviously there are still things to learn, like DARPA's motto. Well, it's not their motto, but DARPA's philosophy is that there's no failures. There's only learning opportunities. If we try something radical and we don't succeed, we look at why we failed and we learn from it. And so, yes, part of the goal of the DARPA Lift Challenge was to have someone come out, succeed at the goal, and win the prize. But the goal was also to have a whole bunch of people come out, try things, not succeed, and create data that we could learn about, well, okay, that didn't work, but there's something we could learn from it. Or if we did it differently, maybe it would work. So that's all valuable. Every single team who came out, whether they got into the air or not, was producing valuable data that every other team was learning from, and just culturally, hopefully, that will propagate out and affect our perception of what we can and can't do.
You kind of said this, but the way I was thinking about it was kind of just it makes sense that the best ratios, unless there's some physics thing that we hadn't really thought about, right? It makes sense that the best ratios would be on more traditional vehicles, because those have the most traditional understanding of the physics, dynamics, control. They have software and hardware built, right? You're just specializing it. You're putting stuff out of spec, but you're still in the ballpark. But 2 planes flying around in a circle, you're taking 2 things that were not built to do that and adding a piece and developing new control software that has to handle that. And it's a bigger step to do something different.
Absolutely.
In this way.
So absolutely.
That they even had some success, that they got flying vehicles,
Absolutely.
that they pushed forward, that concept, I think, is a lot more impressive than the numbers would show you. That's the way
100%. Sherman Aeronautics was the team that had the 2 airplanes flying in a circle. And there was another team who, I'm sorry to say, I'm blanking on their name, I apologize, but they also had 2 airplanes flying in a circle. They never got in the air. Their planes were either imbalanced, or basically the planes would start going in a circle, one would pull and the other one would kind of flip over. They never got in the air. And so Sherman Aeronautics took off and landed multiple times. They never actually got a scoring run. But they developed... Sorry, Blunty, go ahead.
Skyweaver is the other one.
Skyweaver. Thank you, Blunty. See, you're my producer in my ear. For people who don't know what I'm talking about, this is Sherman Aeronautics. If you didn't see this, your mind is going to be blown here. And I want to be clear that what you're seeing, this actually is not this is the test platform. So I can't say for sure. They developed custom flight control software. The pilot is steering these planes with a single controller. These planes together. He said when they originally did this, him and his dad both flew one plane separately. But for the DARPA Lift Challenge, there had to be a single pilot and a single control link. And so they developed custom flight control software that allows these 2 planes to act like a single rotor disc. And so you push forward on the pitch stick, and these planes together figure out how to tilt themselves to act like a collective pitch helicopter. and tilt themselves and make you move one direction or the other. I can't even imagine how they did that.
What was the guy you interviewed who was like the event producer?
Donna.
Donna.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive Donna said the first version of this was hand controlled. They had two pilots.
Yep, that's
he
correct.
said that on the stream. That's insane. Like they were able to even conceptually do this with two physical pilots, and then we're like, okay, now we can build a control system around this.
So like if the only thing these guys did was they developed this control system, think about what it has to do. It has to know, like, let's say you roll right. Okay, well, where's the front of this aircraft? I don't know. But when you roll right, each of the airplanes has to know when they're on the 3 o'clock side of the circle and the 9 o'clock side of the circle. And on the 3 o'clock side, the airplane has to climb, and on the 9 o'clock side, it has to descend. And it has to tilt that disc. Think about what's involved in writing that control software. I can't even imagine how you do that. I can't imagine. So, like, and they flew this thing multiple times. Is this anything more than a curiosity? I don't know. But if you think that this is just a curiosity and has no practical application, you are wrong. You don't know either. We don't know. This could be a curiosity. But this, like, the fact that they did this, like, is itself, like, there's so many stories like this, too. Teams who came to the DARPA Lift Challenge who never got a scoring run, and yet they were inspired. And I would talk to these guys, and like if you like, they've spent months and months of work and God knows how much money, and they come out here and they don't even get a scoring run. Some of them didn't even get in the air. And I was like I want to be sensitive about this, but I kind of want to get your take. Like, are you disappointed? Are you? And I, obviously I didn't put it like that. I was like, man, it must suck that you didn't even get in the air. Boy, you really worked hard on this too, didn't you? Anyway, tell me your thoughts. No. Every single one of them was like so thrilled just to be here, to be talking to the other teams, to be sharing knowledge. Like, just, yeah, this is such a positive event in my opinion. Maybe I got a little bit of rose-colored glasses, but so anyway, going back to the original question, I was like, the sci-fi nerd in me wanted some radical design. The team that was doing 12-1, I think it was Defentex was their name. They had a 12-pound aircraft lifting 110 pounds, and later they reinforced it, and it was an 18-pound aircraft. So because the minimum weight was 110 pounds, they did not have the option to do a 4-to-1 payload to weight ratio. The minimum payload to weight ratio they could do was something around like 9-to-1. And I was like, my God, wouldn't it be cool if somehow they got their shit sorted out and they just they managed to finish a run by the skin of their teeth, and all of a sudden the number went from 3.84 to 1, boom, to 9 to 1. Come from behind. And like, I was rooting for them, just for, you know, I was like, that would be such a great story. It didn't happen. So, yeah, I was surprised that the first and second place were both using electric only. They were not using liquid fuel. I'm pretty sure at least one of them was using Amprius batteries, which are the Amprius silicon anode cells with the highest energy density that is commercially available. Maybe that's just available. But I would have lost money that it was possible to finish this course with this weight with pure electric. So, way to go. Yeah. It didn't surprise, and it surprised me a little bit that MTech was able to get in with a hexacopter. Like, you just, like, obviously a single big rotor is going to be more efficient, but part of the issue was that the course involved a lot of back and forth. So it was 4 nautical miles with weight, 1 nautical mile without the weight, but the course was only 1,100 feet long. And so there was a lot of back and forth. And so that's, I think, why the wings didn't do as well. Not that many of the wings even got into the air, but a wing gets into the air, it transitions to forward flight, and then it goes. But every time it has to transition back to vertical, it's losing efficiency. Whereas a rotorcraft or a multi-rotor is better at doing those turns and back and forth. Anyway, here's a question from Arthurlitgo Martin. Thank you for £5 sterling. Using the DJI Goggles V2 with the Vista, I fully power the goggles in the quad, and I get live OSD and telemetry, no video. When that happens, the issue is your camera or your MIPI cable going between the camera and the VTX. Reseat the MIPI cable at both the camera and the VTX just to make sure it's seated. Check the MIPI cable for damage, and then ultimately completely replace the camera and the MIPI cable. Don't throw the old one out. It might be fine. But completely replace the camera and MIPI cable and see which one of those things fixes it. Yaros says, hey JB, I'm wondering, have you tried Betaflight 2606 with a GPS? I have not. They've improved GPS mag-based features. What threw me off was that there is now a heading NA warning flashing in the OSD until you fly straight or it acquires a valid heading. Kind of annoying and confusing. No, I disagree, sir. I disagree. The annoying thing is not knowing whether you have a valid heading or not and just being like, I don't know, I guess I'm going to flip the switch and see if it works. I've been annoyed for as long as I've used Betaflight GPS Rescue that it doesn't have an indicator as to whether it has a good heading. Now you might say, well, it's annoying that it's so prominent on screen. Okay. But no, this is, I didn't know they did this. Thank you for telling me. I'm really glad that it's done this. It also seems to have issues with GPS Rescue where it ascends and then drifts off instead of returning. That's usually a compass heading issue. I don't know. That's probably an issue with your specific build. It might be a Betaflight bug, but unless it's reproducible and unless it's happening on multiple builds, it's probably more a you problem than a Betaflight problem. Sorry to say. Can you recommend a field monitor that can display HDMI video from my goggles, serve as a second laptop monitor, and run off a DC power source? If you want it as a laptop monitor, that's a little trickier. I'm going to have to look it up. I know a guy... who has a monitor he travels with, and it's high brightness and it's high frame rate. It works with the video, the digital systems. I just texted him and asked him, hey, can you tell me what it is? And we'll see if he gets back to me in time. And I'll answer you if he does. If not, I won't. And by the way, Bardwell DM someone. Okay, so I have two options for bingo. Fuck! Oh, 3 options for bingo. I have 4 options for bingo. I am so close to getting bingo. And yet. Yarrow says it is reproducible by several people. Okay. Yeah, he has not gotten back to me. Is the quality difference between high-end analog goggles worth the price difference when compared to entry-level goggles for a complete beginner? Here's the thing. The goggles are a buy once, cry once situation. If you are going to be in the hobby for a year or two, you're probably going to end up buying high-end goggles eventually. The only question is how much money you will spend on other things beforehand. Now, So like, it also depends on your budget, you know? High-end goggles are going to cost like minimum $500 or $600 and as much as $700 or almost $800, depending on which ones you get. The ergonomics of the high-end goggles are much better. The receiver performance is much better, and the usability, just the day-to-day experience of using them, the DVR, the settings, the options, is much better. So the question is whether you are going to buy a $700 set of goggles, and then like if that's gonna like hurt you to spend that money, you probably shouldn't do it. You know, there's a rule in the watch community: never take out a loan to buy a watch. It's a good rule. Now, you know, this is a recreational hobby. If you're in a position where you are comfortable spending money on high-end goggles, I will tell you that as a beginner, you shouldn't buy all high-end stuff because you're going to crash the drone. Like you're going to buy the wrong thing. You're going to waste your money. But if there was one piece of equipment, I would say you should think about buying high-end right off the bat. It would be the goggles. The other thing is that the goggles are likely to have good resale value. Unlike a drone, you spend $600 on a drone, you crash it, you lose it, you wasted that money. Do not spend a lot of money on your first drone as a beginner. There's a very good chance you will destroy it or you will fly it into the sunset and never see it again. That money's going to be gone. But the goggles they're going to be fine. If you spend $600, $700 on goggles and then 3 months from now you get out of the hobby, you'll make most of that back, not all of it, but most of it back selling them. Whereas if you buy a $150 set of goggles, that it's not much resale value. So it depends a lot on your budget. But yes, the expensive goggles are better. They fit your face better. They're more comfortable to use, and just the day-to-day experience of doing what you do with them is nicer. Roborito says, with the BetaFPV ArtLink system, you can get into digital for just a little more than analog. Where do you stand on people starting with an analog package versus starting with ArtLink? Yeah, like the BetaFPV P1 is the system you're thinking of. It's in an ecosystem called ArtLink, ArtLynk. The ArtLink system is not bad, and I like the fact that there are like HLRC and SkyZone are also making ArtLink compatible stuff. So like the BetaFPV P1 system has a low output power. It's good for smaller drones, but you wouldn't probably want it on a 5-inch because you wouldn't get enough range. But then HLRC makes a high-powered video transmitter that's compatible with the ArtLink. So if you buy the ArtLink system with the BetaFPV VR04 goggles, then you can use it with these other systems. It's a good ecosystem to get into for that reason. It is very low priced compared to other things. The main problem is the latency is not good. As a beginner, that won't hurt you too much, but then you'll hit a point, and I don't think it's a very it's not like it's going to be fine until you get to like an 8 or 9 out of 10 on the skill scale, the performance scale. When you start out, you're like a 1 out of 10 on your capabilities. And the latency of the BetaFPV system is going to become an issue at like a 3 or a 4 out of 10. Now, if all you ever do is fly high in the sky with an airplane, it'll never be an issue. Airplanes, if you're not doing any proximity stuff, if you're not doing high speed, high precision stuff, maybe it doesn't matter. If all you ever do is do cinematic cruising and then you come in for a landing, you're good. But as soon as you start flying near obstacles and as soon as you start flying at higher speed, as soon as you start doing moves like racing turns or freestyle moves where more precision is required, the latency of the P1 system will become will cripple you, so to speak. And the problem is that as a beginner, you'll just think you suck. You won't know that it's the latency. You'll just be like, damn, this is hard. How do people do this? And then the first time you fly a true low latency system, you'll be like, oh my God, this is so much better. But the flip side is that you start out with analog, the latency is good, but then the image quality is shit. So I would not categorically rule out starting with the P1 system, but be aware that the latency is a real limitation, and try some analog too, I guess.
Do we want to talk about the new BetaFPV beta releases?
Sure.
Okay. I think they're interesting developments in the P1 world.
Where will I find that, Plenty? You got a link for me?
Yeah, on our website, I think I'll find a link.
Beta test in development? This one? Ooh, HDVRX. Shut up.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. That's hot. That is hot. Oh my gosh. I could use this in my frickin' analog goggle bay. Hell. Oh. Oh. I just had the Vince McMahon meme. This is me right now. I don't know what the four things should be. Wow. That's cool.
I put another link in the chat too if you want to click on
I want BetaFPV. I want one. Send me one. Let me review this. Sheesh. What'd you send me, Plenty? Oh my God. I'm just trying to use your website. All-in-one flight controller with the P1 VTX built in. $70. Sheesh. That's amazing. Yeah.
This is a reduced price compared to what they think they're going to sell it for, but still,
they're giving analog a run for their money, though.
It's interesting that they're expanding the line in the way they are.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Well,
versus what?
Well, I think this is the way we've talked about this before when Caddx originally released Artisan.
Yeah.
The target market for this has to be like tiny whoops. Small stuff, new people drones.
Whoops. I'm going to correct you there.
Yeah,
whoops.
Wings.
We don't say that. We don't say that. That's a registered trademark.
Boy,
continue.
It's doomed forever.
Oh, I hold a fucking chip on my shoulder. You better goddamn believe it. I will hold a grudge forever. Continue.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's interesting. This is where you have to expand the market to, right? So you go, okay, who's not trying this, right? Okay, all the people with traditional analog goggles, right? So let's make a module bay that they can just put in their analog goggles so they can't complain.
That's fantastic. Right? I love it.
Yeah. Okay, we want to build whoops, so let's just build an integrated board so we don't even have to have an extra VTX. It's all in one. I don't know. I think this is just the direction you have to go with this kind of hardware, right?
Yeah, it's great. This is great because now you don't have to choose. You buy a set of analog goggles, you stick this in the module bay. You can still do BetaFPV P1. You can still do ArtLink, and then you go back to your analog module. Bing, bang, bong. It's beautiful. It's fantastic.
I put one more link in, which is a VRX they just announced.
Whoa. Is it outputting? It's got to output an NTSC signal though. The analog module bay is analog, so you're taking this digital feed and you're converting it to low resolution analog. It's probably still very good looking compared to regular analog. Is that what they're doing?
I would suggest that the original feed is not true HD anyway. So depending on how you're compressing
it, mini HDMI port. No, it does mini HDMI out. It does HDMI out.
It
plugs into the module bay. You can see the pins right here. I think. Can you see the pins? Are there pins? Oh, this is
power from the bay.
There you go. There's the backside. Yeah, it's just getting power. Look, it's just getting power from the module bay, and then it's doing HDMI out on this plug. That's fantastic. That's so cool. It's a thing. You're like, obviously this is what they should have done. And yet how often in your life, Blunty, do you see a company make the exact product that they should have made instead of some bullshit product that they want to sell? This is such a great move, BetaFPV. If this product isn't like a piece of shit, like what's the pricing? $75? This is so going to make this system so accessible.
Yeah, so this is beta test, so it'll be like 100 to 120 probably, I would guess. I don't know. But
that's the same price as an analog module.
Yeah.
Yeah. You grab this, you use it for your frickin', long-range birds. You use it for some Cinewhoops on the inside. I don't know. You just use it to try out the P1 system. You got options. It's fantastic. Way to go.
People are asking if the VRX is the same latency as goggles. I would guess this VRX is the same latency as all the other VRXs have been, but I'm not sure what that adds on the testing.
Well, you get the latency of the HDMI input, and that depends on your goggles. Some of them have as much as 16 milliseconds of latency. The HDZero V2 goggles, I checked this with Ryan Quellet yesterday for reasons that you'll find out about this week when videos release. 1 millisecond, he said, for the HDZero V2 goggles. 1 millisecond from the HDMI input to the screen. So when you ask, do more expensive goggles matter? That's a thing that you get with the HDZero V2 goggles anyway. I got to hit my BetaFPV contact up. How did they not mention this to me? This is wild.
And then the last thing I'll show, they just put out a new VRX. I also linked that in the Discord.
Oh, I see we've run over. I'm sure Ciati's okay with it, but sorry, Ciati. What is this? The P1 HD VRX. Oh, so this is not goggle mounted. It's just a standalone.
Correct, but it does a mini HDMI output, like built in.
Yeah.
It's like basically like a standalone, like setup VRX, but
yeah, instead of mounted on your goggles.
They're continuing to work on this, which is
I love it. I love it. I love there being alternatives. This is the ArtLink system is, I'll say it if I haven't said it before, it is 100% a viable choice. It has limitations, and it is not the best in any way except price. But by God, the price is compelling, and the performance is going to be right for some people, especially given the price. It's arrived. I bless it. Go ahead, Blunty.
Barring the fact that it actually works well on the new hardware.
Okay, well, I haven't tested this hardware, but the hardware I've seen worked decently. Let's wrap.
Matt's was saying in the chat that the V2 software is not doing great right now.
Oh, fuck. Never mind. I take it back. Yeah. I rescind my blessing. Before we close out, Bardwell shows a meme on screen. Bingo! I showed a meme on screen, and it wasn't gratuitous. I earned a bingo this time. Yay for me. I get bingo. Ciati, apologize for going long. We're going to wrap up. We will be back tomorrow at the normal time. And then I'll get some more live streams scheduled so you guys can know what the upcoming schedule is going to be. So, but that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for coming out. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody. Did I miss? Wait. Did I miss a super chat? Somebody was asking, "Hey, did my super chat get missed?"
Yeah, it didn't get missed. We read it.
Okay, great. Bye.